Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. For those who don't know, my name is Jenny. This is a core and restore class. So you may want to grab some props just for the restore part. It can be nice to bring in a little extra support. So a few things you could grab, maybe a block or two, something kind of the similar shape. Maybe a blanket or two. You can grab some bolsters, cushions. I don't have anything planned where we need props specifically, but it is nice sometimes when we get into the restore part just to have a little extra support. So take some time for those at home to gather whatever props you'd like. And for class today, I kind of want to piggyback on the theme. We had a big fundraiser yesterday for Black Lives Matter Salt Lake City chapter. It was a huge success. Many of you were there. Thank you again for your attendance and your contributions. And the theme for that class, we pulled from the Black Lives Matter hallmark of move at the speed of trust. And I just love this. As we started developing the theme of this class, it kind of stuck with me throughout my day, throughout my week, and just noticing as I navigate the world how important it is in all aspects of our lives to move at the speed of trust. So I just kind of wanted to bring a little more of that into our practice today. And I think it's really an important aspect to bring into your yoga practice. There's a lot of trust that is needed to be able to navigate any yoga practice in an accessible and sustainable way. And so a big part of that is learning to trust your teacher or finding teachers that you trust. I'm not trying to talk crap on any yoga instructors, but there is a lot of misinformation out there as far as a lot of cues, a lot of alignments, a lot of things where we almost force many different body shapes into one specific shape. And that can be dangerous for our body. I've been practicing for almost 10 years and I still have a lot of flexibility to gain, but also I've recognized that my body just doesn't do a lot of those flexible things. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos, I take a lot of different classes, and I can tell pretty quickly if I trust the teacher or not, depending on a lot of their cues and how they treat the class as a whole. Now, I understand not everyone has that kind of knowledge or those kind of skills to be able to assess that. So it's really important to trust your gut and to listen to the teacher, but take it with a grain of salt. Don't just take every single thing that they say as truth, and really learn to trust your body, trust your instincts, because that is really the ultimate guide. Teachers are there to offer support, to offer suggestions, but it's truly your practice. And it can take time, especially as you start to get into yoga, to develop that trust, that relationship with your body, with your intuition. But that's definitely another way that you can bring that trust into your asana practice. And trust is the foundation of any solid relationship. And I think as we build a foundation in our bodies for our practice, and to be able to have that trust in our bodies, one really important aspect of that is a strong core, a strong foundation. So that's kind of how I'm bringing that into our class today. We are going to be focusing a lot on core, a lot of engagement. So we're going to slow things down a little bit so that we can move from that place of support, from that solid foundation, and we can start to, from there, feel into the rest of our bodies and continue to build a trusting relationship with our bodies as we move through our asana practice. So just keep that in mind as I give suggestions and guide us through this practice. Know that you are free to do whatever feels right for you. So if I say something that isn't working in your body, explore something else. Really trust yourself, trust your intuition, and trust your body. Your body will tell you if you've gone too far or if you need to back off, if you need to take a break. Just learn to honor and trust that. So let's jump into it. We'll start seated. So just find a comfortable position, whatever that looks like for you. But sit so that you can find a little length in the spine. This is where I like to bring in a block or something to lift the booty. Just helps to tilt the pelvis forward, creating a little more space through the hips so that you can find that length up through the spine. And while we're sitting nice and tall with integrity, we don't want to be stiff and rigid. So go ahead and relax in the shoulders, relax in the face. The hands can just kind of drape down. Maybe they land on the legs or kind Kind of float in the middle or off to the side, whatever feels good for the position for the hands. You're welcome to close the eyes or just soften the gaze. As we start to settle in, just start to notice the breath. And in this noticing of the breath, there may be a natural tendency to lengthen the breath or find yourself breathing a little deeper. And that's kind of our natural instincts that wants to take us back to our more natural way of breathing, which is full belly breaths. Allowing the belly to press out as you inhale, creating space for the lungs to expand. And exhaling, drawing that belly in to help press that air out. So kind of focus on this area kind of by your belly button. Inhaling, let it press out, giving yourself a little Buddha belly. And then exhale, drawing it back in. This is just starting to connect to that core muscles. You can even take it a step further. On the exhale, as you draw the belly in, you can hug the ribs in, creating a little more engagement in the core. You can also work with ujjayi breathing, finding some activation in the muscles in the back of the throat. And then that just gives the breath a nice audible quality, something for the mind to tune into, and just another anchor to keep us present, to keep us coming back to the body, coming back to our practice. Because the mind will wander. That's just how our human brain works. And we are just simply here to practice coming back to presence, coming back into the body, and continuing to build that trust. Now we're going to take our breathing just a little step further, just to fire up that belly a little bit more. We're going to do a pranayama practice called breath of fire. So it'll be a very forceful exhale, and then the inhale just kind of happens naturally. So as we sit up nice and tall, that forceful exhale through the nose, we will be drawing that belly in kind of forcefully, and then as we relax, the inhale will just kind of happen. So it'll sound and look a little something like this. So we have a very intense breath going, the belly is engaged. So as you feel ready, go ahead and start in with your fire breath. So strong exhale, passive inhale. Continue with this, that strong drawing in, activating through the belly. Feel that heat building in the core. Awesome work. We'll do about 10 more. Deep breath in. Hold at the top. Soften around the breath. Relax in the face, relax in the shoulders. And then as you feel ready, exhale all of it out. Letting it go. And just noticing for a moment. Feeling that fire in the belly. Noticing the effects of your pranayama. It is a very activating breath. And then just start to return to your deep belly breathing, maybe with that ujjayi activation. Find a depth to your breath that feels like it could be sustainable through our practice. And again, just continue to come back to the breath when the mind starts to wander. If you start to notice that, you're kind of thinking about other things or just going through the motions, just coming back to that breath is a good way to come back down to presence. Continuing to press the belly in and out, giving that slight hugging in of the ribs as you draw that belly in on the exhale. Continuing with that strength in the core, we'll release the arms down alongside the body. We'll take an inhale to send the arms out to the side, raise them up towards the sky. And the hands can either stay parallel, or if it feels okay in the shoulders, interlace through the hands and the pointer finger could point up. And then nice and slow, with that engagement in the core and without just flinging the body side to side, we're going to bring in a little pendulum action. So side to side. The hip bones stay grounded, sits bones stay connected. And we're not just, again, flailing the body around, but we're using that strength in the core, the strength in the obliques. Maybe you take it a little deeper to each side, just as feels good in your body. We don't want to go too far to where the obliques or the low back need to strain to draw the body back up. But we're definitely looking to use that strength in the core to find that movement. Awesome work. And the next time you find yourself swaying over towards the right, go ahead and release the right hand down towards the ground and just continue to arch over, just extending that full side body stretch. Again, the hips and sits bones are still grounded down, so notice if that left hip wants to start to raise up off the ground. Or I guess that would be the right hip. Awesome work. From the strength in the obliques, we'll inhale to come back up through center and switch it over to the other side. Releasing left hand down, arching over, getting a nice stretch through the right side body. Continue breathing into the belly. Excellent work. From the strength in the obliques, we'll inhale to come back up through center. And then we'll release the hands forward. We'll come forward to hands and knees, so you can shift the weight over the ankles or you could swing the legs around. Coming into our tabletop. Take time to set this up. We want to find a solid connection down to the hands, but we want to be aware of the wrists. A common cue is wrists directly underneath the shoulders. If that doesn't feel good, that's a pretty extreme angle for the wrists. The hands can come forward. You could play with maybe the width of the hands. And this will come more in handy when we start to move through some push-ups, some chaturangas. But find a solid connection to the hands, knees underneath the hips, and then find that connection to the core as we lengthen out through the crown of the head, out through the tailbone. So similar to how we were sitting with that nice tall spine. And we're gonna bring in that support of the core. So belly drawing in, ribs hugging in. And then without losing that activation, we'll move through some cat-cow. So inhaling to lower the belly, don't release that engagement, but keep it engaged as you arch through the spine, lifting the gaze. And then exhale, it's easier to engage here as you draw the belly in and up, rounding out. So we're working through spinal flexion here, but we are using the activation of the core to build that strength in our foundation. Taking the flexion of the spine to whatever depth feels right to you. And
Fantastic work. So we'll make our way back towards a neutral spine. That belly drawing in, ribs hugging in, and that kind of creates a little tuck here. So it's almost like the tailbone kind of tucks down and the bottom of the ribs and the hip bones kind of come together. So we're not fully rounding out. We're still keeping that natural curvature of the spine. We're just really engaging in the core to have that support for the low back and for the whole torso. So from that strength in the core, we'll start to extend the right toes back. Maybe the toes stay on the ground, or perhaps they hover, bringing the heel anywhere up to level with the hips. We don't want to send the heel higher than the hips because that'll cause us to arch in the back and create some tension in the low back. So we're engaging in that core as we hover the leg, or again, perhaps the toes stay connected. And then without shifting too much in the shoulders, we're going to bring a little more weight into the right hand, starting to unweight the left hand. And that hand can reach forward. Maybe you just tent the fingers coming up onto the fingertips, or you start to hover that arm. So anywhere towards a bird dog. Staying connected to your breath, drawing that belly in, low ribs and hips drawing together. Fantastic work. This is a great challenge for the balance. This is building strength in the core. If you do want a little more, we'll inhale to extend through the limbs. Exhale, nice and slow. We'll draw the elbow and knee together, rounding out in the spine. Inhale, re-extend. Exhale, elbow and knee. Tuning into the weight distribution in the right hand and left knee. Inhale, extend. Exhale, elbow and knee together. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bring it in. We'll do one more. Inhale, re-extend. And exhale, bring it in. Beautiful work. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, release back down to our tabletop. Now from here, we're going to kickstand the right toes out. So the right toes will turn out to the right side. We'll kick the left toes back so the toe is in line with the right knee. Right hand in line with the right knee. So we've got a nice straight line here coming into a variation of side plank. You can reach that right arm up towards left arm up towards the sky, opening up through the chest. If you'd like, you could hover those left toes, maybe just a couple inches above the ground, or maybe they come level with the hip. Awesome work. If the leg is raised, activate through the toes, so either flexed or pointed, to help that leg defy gravity. We've still got that engagement in the core. Awesome work. Now we're going to find a little similar side-to-side movement that we did seated with the obliques, but through this side plank variation. So nice and slow. If the left toes were extended, we'll lower them down towards the ground. From the strength in the obliques, we'll inhale to come up through center. And then we'll exhale to open up into gate pose. Nice and slow. Awesome work. Inhale, come back up through center. And exhale, release down to our side plank variation. So we'll flow here through a few rounds. Take your time, really move through that strength in the core, drawing the belly in, hugging ribs in. And again, just moving at the speed of trust. As you come down, you're welcome to raise that left leg up for a little more activation. Take your time. Move with the breath. Move with engagement. If that right knee is a little sensitive, you can double up on the mat. You could kneel on a blanket. Awesome. We're starting to wrap up our exploration here
We'll meet back up in center with the torso extended up towards the sky, and then we're just gonna bow it forward,
lowering the hands down towards the ground. And if you'd like, you can send the hips back, so we're kind of coming into a puppy pose or a child's pose with that left leg extended. Head and chest lowering towards the earth, but they definitely don't need to touch. Releasing the head down towards the ground, maybe shaking the head yes and no. Fantastic work. As you feel ready, we'll start to walk the hands back as the torso raises up. We'll walk the hands forward and come back to our hands and knees. Let's get off the knees just for a minute before we take it to the other side. So let's go ahead and prop the toes, spread out through the hands, lengthen through the spine, engage in the core, then nice and slow start to lift the knees, root back through the heels, coming through a bear pose. We're pressing the ground away as we lengthen through the spine, and then from that strength in the core, continue to lift the hips as the legs start to straighten, but you can keep a soft bend in the knees as we come towards our first downward dog. Here, feel free to pedal through the feet. You could shake the head yes or no. Find your breath. Fantastic work. And then just as slowly as we came up, we're gonna rebend in the knees, lengthening or keeping that length in the spine as we come back through our bear pose, and then nice and slow setting the knees back down. And we'll start to take that little series on the other side. So starting by finding our foundation, drawing that belly in, hugging ribs in, finding a nice neutral spine, engaging in the core, and then we'll start to extend the left leg back, and toes could stay connected to the ground, or they could slowly start to hover, maybe just a couple inches, or maybe they raise up so that the leg is parallel to the ground, nothing much higher, just to protect the low back. If the toes are raised, keep the foot active, either flexed or pointed. And then without shifting too much in the shoulders, bringing a little more weight into the left hand, walking the right hand forward, and maybe you just tent through the palm and balance up on the fingertips, or perhaps that right arm extends. Staying connected to the breath, lengthening through the spine. Core is engaged. If we disengage the core here, then there's a tendency to kind of drop the belly down and bring in a little arching in. And we want to protect the back, so bring in that, or draw that belly in towards the spine, hug ribs in for that full support. Stay here, or if you want a little extra, inhale to lengthen through the limbs. Exhale, nice and slow, elbow and knee draw together as you round out in the spine, belly drawing in and up. Inhale, re-extend, lengthening through the arm, through the leg. Exhale, elbow and knee come together. Awesome work. Work through 3 more at your own pace, playing with the little nuances of balance. Trying to evenly distribute the weight between the left hand and right knee. Beautiful work. After your 5th one, we'll release back down to hands and knees. And then we'll start to kickstand the left toes out towards the left side, extending the right toes back, toes planted on the ground in line with the left knee. Left hand comes in line with the left knee. So we're setting up our side angle here, and perhaps our side plank, and then perhaps that right arm reaches up towards the sky. If you'd like, you could start to hover the right leg,
Again, it could just come a couple inches off the ground or parallel to the ground. Keep the toes active if you're raising that leg. Stay connected to the breath. Embrace any shaking in the body. Beautiful work. Then we'll start to find our flow with our engagement of the obliques. So setting the right toes down if they were raised. Starting to raise the upper body up, coming through center. Exhaling to open up into gate pose, getting a nice side stretch through the left side body. Inhaling back up through center. And exhale into our side plank variation. So find your flow, and we're not moving with momentum, but with engagement, with the strength in the core. Beautiful work. Starting to wrap up our exploration through here. Again, we'll meet back up in center with the torso lengthening up, and then we'll start to bow it forward, keeping that right leg extended. Hands walk forward, head and chest lower down. Your choice if the hips stay raised or if you want to send the hips back towards the left thigh. Coming into an extended leg child's pose or puppy pose. Excuse me. Beautiful work. As you feel ready, we'll slowly start to raise back up. Walking the hands forward. And coming back to our hands and knees. We'll prop the toes once again, spreading out through the hands, finding that solid connection to the hands. Lengthen through the spine, engage in the core, draw the belly in, hug ribs in. Slowly start to hover the knees, rooting back through the heels as we lengthen out through the crown of the head, out through the tailbone. Pausing in bear pose, feeling that burning in the legs, the fire in the belly. Might be starting to feel this in the arms. Nice and slow, continue to lift the hips. Chest starts to shift back towards the thighs, keeping that spine nice and long as we find another downward dog. Again, if pedaling through the feet or shaking the head, yes and no would feel good here, feel free to take that. And then as you feel ready, on an inhale, we're going to shift the weight into the left foot and start to extend the right toes back and up. Now, just like in our tabletop, maybe the toes just hover a couple inches above the ground. Maybe they raise higher. Maybe they come all the way up. It doesn't matter how high the leg is coming, just keep it nice and active. Lengthening through the spine, engaging in the core. Inhale here. Exhale, we'll start to shift forward. Knee comes towards the nose. And then we'll step the foot between the hands. Fantastic work. Take a few rounds of breath here in this nice low lunge, maybe a little forward and backward shifting. If it feels better for you, you can lower that back knee down. And then find your foundation in your feet. Press into all four corners of the front foot. Lift through the arch. Root down towards the ball of the back foot and root out through the heel. Hips hug in. Core is engaged, spine is lengthening. From that engagement, press down into the feet.
So much that the hands start to hover, the chest starts to lift, and then we make our way to a high crescent lunge. Hands could come to the knee, to the hips, or they could extend. Awesome work. Inner thighs draw together. That right hip is drawing back, left hip shifting forward, so we have nice squaring through the hips. Legs are engaged, core is drawing in. Awesome work. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, we're gonna open up to warrior two. So back heel pivots down. Arms open up along horizon. We still got that activation in that front foot, pressing into all four corners. We're lengthening to the back edge of the back foot, but bring some awareness to the inner edge as well. So we're using that full back foot for activation. Awesome work. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, come forward to a side angle. So the right elbow can come to the right knee, left arm can reach up towards the sky. Right arm could reach down towards a block or towards the ground, definitely not necessary. Don't need to take it too far. And if you want a little more side stretch, the left bicep could come to the left ear. So this is a similar shape to what we were making in our side angle variation or side plank variation, just with a little more activation in the legs. From the strength in the obliques, inhale, come back up through warrior two, pressing down into the feet, and then exhale, reverse warrior. So right arm reaches towards the sky, left arm can reach down towards the ground, so we open up through the whole right side body. Beautiful work, and then this is where we'll flow. So we'll inhale, coming back up through warrior two, exhale to side angle. Inhale, back up through warrior two, and exhale to reverse. So flow here, the arms can do whatever exploration or expression you would like. You're welcome to pause for a little bit longer in each pose or continue one breath per movement. And again, we're not just throwing the body around, we're not using momentum here. We're using that strength and engagement in the core as we build our foundation. Might be some shaking in the legs, that is the body getting stronger. And trust that the body is stronger than we give it credit for. Oftentimes when we feel like we've reached our physical limit, the body still has a little bit more to give. That's why we like to challenge ourselves in yoga, like to kind of push our edge, so that we can learn to trust our body's abilities, trust in the strength we have. Awesome work. Go ahead and wrap up your exploration here. We'll meet back up in a warrior two. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, cartwheel the hands all the way down. Come back through that low lunge, pivoting the back heel up. And then we'll draw the right foot back through plank pose. Here, we'll make our way to a downward dog. If you want to take a chaturanga upward dog, if that's part of your practice, you can also take a push-up all the way down to the belly. Inhale up to a cobra. And then exhale, making your way through our tabletop, through bear, and into downward dog. So that's just a gentle way to make your way to down dog. Awesome work. Now you know where we're going. We'll take that on the other side. We're rooting down through the right heel. On an inhale, start to extend the left leg up. Again, doesn't matter how high it's coming, but keep it nice and active, flexed or pointed. Lifting from the inner thigh, activating through the quad, through the hamstring. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhale, shift forward through a plank as we bring the knee towards the nose and step the foot between the hands. Take some time in this low lunge. Again, you're welcome to lower the back knee down. If that feels better, feeling into this stretch in the hip flexor, opening in the hips, and starting to really connect down to your foundation, down to your feet. All four corners of the front foot pressing down as we lift up through the arch, rooting back through the back heel. Legs are strong, inner thighs drawing together. Belly is drawing in, ribs hug in, core is engaged. Slowly pressing into the feet. Hands start to hover. Chest starts to hover as we slowly make our way up to a high crescent lunge. Again, hands could come to the knee, to the hips, or they could reach up. Our inner thighs are drawing together. Left hip drawing back, right hip shifting forward, so nice squaring through the hips. Back leg is active. Working with balance. When you're ready, inhale to lengthen through the spine. Exhale, we're opening up to our warrior two. Back heel pivots down, establish your foundation in your feet. Front knee is bent, in line with the ankle or slightly behind. Spine is nice and straight, core is engaged, arms extended. Feeling into our warrior two. When you're ready, inhale to lengthen. Exhale, come forward towards a side angle. So again, left elbow to left knee or left arm reaching towards the ground. Right arm can reach up towards the sky or perhaps bicep by the ear. Drawing the belly in, hugging in through the ribs. Inhale, coming up through our warrior two from the strength in the core. And exhale, open up to reverse warrior. Left arm raises, right arm can just reach down or maybe rest on the leg. And then we'll find our flow. Inhaling through center, exhaling to side angle. Inhaling back up through warrior two, and exhale to reverse warrior. So continue to explore through this, and you can take that one breath per movement. You can slow things down even further. But again, we're not using momentum to throw the body around. We're using and building that strength in the core, in the obliques, in the back side of the core. Those whole corset muscles. Beautiful work. Starting to wrap up this exploration. We'll meet back in our warrior two. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhale, cartwheel the hands all the way down. Pivot the back heel up. Draw the left foot back. Now we're going to pause here in plank pose. You're welcome to lower the knees down into half plank. You could even come back to tabletop. That is a good way to start building that strength for our plank pose. Again, we're pressing into the hands, really lifting the back of the heart up. So we're almost trying to press ourselves away from the ground as far as we can. And then here, really tune into that slight little tuck of the tailbone to draw the hip bones and the lower ribs together. Feel how that activates through the core. Fantastic work. When you're ready, nice and slow, we're going to lower down either into a chaturanga push-up or all the way down to the belly. Inhale to cobra or an upward dog. And exhale, take it back to downward dog. Fantastic work. Nice and, nice and slow. We'll bend through the knees, coming through our bear pose. Lengthening through the spine. Hovering, rooting back through the heels, pressing through the hands. And then eventually the knees set down, untuck through the toes, send the hips back, finding a child's pose. The head and chest release down. It's okay if the head doesn't touch the ground. But if it doesn't and you'd like to release the head, you could bring in a blanket, a pillow, a block, something to just fill in that space. It might also feel good just to turn the palms up, letting the balls of the shoulders roll out, getting a nice release in the upper back. Breathing into the back side of the body. A few more rounds of breath here. And then as you feel ready, I'll slowly plant the hands. I'll lift the hips back up to a tabletop. And then we're going to come all the way down onto the belly. So you may want to walk the hands forward or walk the knees back. However you'd like to get there. And we're going to set up for a Sphinx pose so that we can get a nice stretch through the front side of the core. So we're going to bring the forearms to the ground. Arms shoulder distance, and you can walk the elbows back to where they're underneath the shoulders, but that might be a little too intense of a back bend for the low back. It does a little bit for me. I do have some low back issues, so I tend to walk my elbows a little more forward, but we want to plant the hands so that we can draw the elbows towards us to help bring the chest forward. Gaze is forward if that feels okay in the neck. If that is a little too much, then you can take the gaze down so that the neck is a little more neutral. And even if having the hands forward, the elbows forward, if that's still a little too much, you can even send the elbows out to the side and rest the head down. Low back is a really common place where we have issues, so we want to protect the low back. So lots of options. Even just lying on the belly creates a little bit of a back bend. So working a little bit of back bending, getting a stretch through the front side of the body. We'll just be here for about 5 more rounds of breath. Notice if the shoulders are creeping up by the ears, allow the shoulders to melt away, lengthening through the crown of the head. ready to come out, if you are up in a Sphinx pose, then go and send the elbows out so that we can release the head and chest down towards the ground. And then we'll plant the hands, elbows drawing together. And we'll just simply press our way back up through a tabletop. And we'll come into a seated position, but if shifting the hips back into a child's pose for a tick or two would feel good, a little counter stretch, feel free to take that. And then whenever you're ready, we'll come to a seat about the middle of the mat so that we can take it all the way down to the ground. So you can just lie back. If you do want a little bit of a little core work, you can roll down with that belly drawing in, ribs hugging in. It's a little more core activation as we lower down. With the knees bent, we'll walk the heels in towards the glutes. So we're going to set up for a bridge pose. Excuse me. But before we take bridge, we're just going to work with some pelvic tilting. So kind of that same idea of when I was saying to draw the ribs and the hips together. So we'll keep the hips on the ground and just kind of tilt. So on the inhale, tilting the pelvis up, there'll be a little lengthening in the low back. And then exhale, tilt the pelvis down and kind of exaggerate the arch through the spine. So maybe the belly and the chest lift a little bit. So we're keeping the hips connected to the ground, but just moving through that tilting of the pelvis. It'll feel kind of just subtle. I feel like there's a lot going on, but since we're releasing the weight to the earth, this is just kind of a nice way to release around the muscles. Ready, we will take this into a bridge pose, and it's your choice how active or passive you want this. So we are getting into the restore part of our practice. So if you want a supported bridge, a little more passive pose, then as you lift the hips, you're going to want a prop. So a block, a bolster, some blankets, something to slide underneath there. If you want it a little more active, we can just take a traditional bridge. So we'll walk the heels in towards the glutes, press into all four corners of the feet, find that activation in the feet. And then we'll puff up through the chest, hugging the shoulder blades underneath, really exaggerating that arch through the spine. And then we'll press into the feet, press into the shoulders, find that pelvic tilt, so tilting the pelvis up so that we're slowly peeling the hips off the ground. Pressing into the feet, starting to lift the hips up towards the sky, coming up towards our bridge pose. So again, you're welcome to stay here, nice and active. Maybe the fingers point up towards the sky so you can continue to press into the triceps. Hands can interlace underneath the low back, or slide your prop underneath so that you can rest the hips down. Getting a nice deep stretch without too much activation through the body. This is a nice hip flexor stretch, nice opening for the front side of the body. Got the hips lifting, chest lifting towards the chin, while the chin lifts up towards the ceiling, so that we're not compressing through the throat. Pressing into the back of the head so we have some length in the neck. Awesome work. when you feel ready, if you have a prop or something underneath, go ahead and slide it out. And nice and slow, start to set the hips back down. Maybe untucking through the shoulders if necessary to create a little more space as you roll down one at a time, or nice and slow, one vertebrae at a time. Then when the hips land, walking the feet out wider than hip distance, stepping the feet away from the glutes, and taking some windshield wipers, letting the knees drop side to side. You feel ready, bringing the knees back up towards neutral, walking the feet in, and then extending the legs out. So we're lying flat on the back. Since we did a lot of oblique work today, let's take a nice side stretch. I've heard this one called banana or reclined crescent moon. We're going to take this nice and slow from our Shavasana position. We'll just step the right foot out towards the right, and then we'll let the left foot follow, bringing it over towards the right. And maybe you take a few small steps in that direction, creating a little crescent shape with the low body. You could even cross the left ankle over the right, just to get a little deeper into the hip, the outside of the hip. I feel this up into my low back, a little into the IT band. So we've got this half banana shape with the low body. If you want to invite the upper body into the party, then we'll just start by shifting the shoulders over towards the right, and then lifting the head and letting it join. Maybe you do that a few more times, creating that arch through the side. And if it would feel good, you could extend the arms overhead, creating that full crescent shape. Maybe even the right hand grabs the left wrist. So we're not really looking at this as that we're compressing through the right side, but we're extending and opening through that left side body. For those at home, it might be a little more difficult to see, but we're lying on the ground, kind of shaped like this, as if we were standing with legs crossed, if that feels good, and arching over. Shoulders stay on the ground, hips stay on the ground, and just getting that nice full side body stretch. A few more rounds of breath on this side. And then whenever you feel ready to come out, we'll just move out of it as slowly as we moved in. So if you're grabbing onto the wrist, releasing that clasp, slowly starting to let the arms come back down alongside the body. Starting to shift the head and then the shoulders slowly back towards midline. And then slowly starting to step the legs back towards center. When you get back to plumb line, back to neutral, just take a moment to pause and observe. Maybe one side feels a little longer than the other. And then as you feel ready, we'll just take our crescent shape or banana shape on the other side. So starting to step the left foot out towards the left, letting the right foot follow, coming over towards the left. Taking as many of those little steps as you'd like to get the lower body in position, maybe ending with the right ankle crossing on top of the left. Pausing for a moment just to feel this low body stretch in the outer right leg, right hip, maybe up into the SI. And then if it would feel good to complete the crescent shape with the upper body, shifting the shoulders towards the left, letting the head follow suit. Till you find whatever crescent shape feels good on this side. Again, maybe the arms reach overhead. The left hand could grab the right wrist. Breathing into this. Few more rounds of breath here. And whenever you feel ready, once again, just coming out as slowly as we came in. The arms are overhead. Releasing the arms back down alongside the body. Slowly shifting the head and the shoulders back towards center. Taking your time, gradually bringing the legs back towards center, taking nice and slow steps. Coming back to neutral, and just notice, just observe. Now we are here in Shavasana. You're welcome to stay here for the duration of the class. If there are any other final movements that you want to take before you want to settle into your Shavasana, feel free. And listening to the body, building that trust. Building that trust in the body is a two-way street. Our body simply reacts to the things that we do to it, the things that we put in it. And our body trusts that the things that we are doing are for our better good. But we know that that's not always the case. And the body lets us know that. And the body tells us when things are harmful. Our body tells us when we're going too far or when we're about to be injured. And if we don't tune in and listen to those little cues, because the body whispers, it's very subtle the way the body communicates at first. So we need to tune in to those messages, and we need to respond accordingly to send that message to the body. I hear you, I respect you. Because if we continue to ignore the body,
Ignore those subtle messages. Ignore the things that it's asking for. And pretty soon, the body is going to start to yell. And that does not feel good. And yoga is a beautiful journey towards building that solid relationship with your body. Building a respectful relationship with your body, building trust. As you settle into your Shavasana, allow your body to release. Give your body permission to no longer hold you up. Allow your body to surrender, to be held and supported in this space. Giving your body this time to rest and to integrate all of the great work that we've just done. Watching at home, if you do have more time to dedicate to your Shavasana, I do encourage at least 5 more minutes, upwards of 20. Just giving yourself this time to just be. As you begin to feel ready, just gently start to bring a little movement back into the body. Starting to make your way onto one side of the body if you are lying down, pausing for a moment in a nurturing pose. And wherever you find yourself, just take a moment to offer yourself some gratitude for your willingness to step on your mat, to trust yourself, to trust your body, to trust the yoga. As you feel ready, gently start to make your way back up to a comfortable seat if you're not already there. I'll invite you all to bring the hands to heart center or take any other meaningful gesture with the hands. Thank you so much for those joining me in person. Thank you to all of you who allowed me in your homes today. It is my pleasure to share the gift of yoga with you. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. I see you, I honor you, and I bow to you. Namaste.